Okay, so what am I doing here? Um, what I'm doing is working with what I got. A guy's got a problem. He's sent me a data file. He's hundreds, if not thousands, of miles away. And he's not made the kind of captures I would necessarily make. But I got what I got, and I got to help him. He's trying to fix a P0171. So the first thing I want to do is just try to identify what's going on. Is he driving this thing? Is it sitting in the service bay? Whatever. And I can see here from looking at the bottom pit here, vehicle speed, I can see that this guy's driving it. And I'm grateful that he added that PID because now I know I don't have to try to ask. From there, I'm going to try to identify what kind of events are going on here. And I see two that are just standing right out to me. The first one is what looks like a wide open throttle run. Now, if you look over here in the very front of the capture, it looks like you see RPM going up quickly, and it looks like this is probably it is for sure an acceleration, but it looks like it's a wide open throttle acceleration. So let's dial in some PIDs for that period of time. So I'm going to get rid of these guys here. Upstream, downstream, load. All right, so looking at the acceleration and that's weird. It changed on me. I gotta send in a bug report to our developer. All right, so we're at 5,500 RPM, and look at the calculated load. It's 80%. Now, if this was generic data, I would be concerned, but this is OE data, and it's a little tiny bit lower than I would normally expect it, but it is in the ballpark for this vehicle. So right there, so we are wide open throttle. We're in power enrichment mode. We are mainly running off the mass airflow sensor input. Now we're also going to be looking, having added to that some long-term corrections. But that load looks pretty good, which given how mass airflow sensors fail, and that's a topic for a long discussion sometime, and that is mass airflow sensors do not have a linear output. They're not a linear output, and they skew in a certain way with typical failures. Now, I have diagnosed and replaced hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of mass airflow sensors. So yes, I know they can do some weird stuff. Generally, they don't. They generally fail with skewing of the output. Long story short here is that looks good, which means I'm thinking that my mass airflow sensor is okay based on that. Now, it may not be, but that's what I'm thinking at this point. If we look at the same time at the upstream sensor, AFS, Bank 1 Sensor 1, that's a air fuel sensor. I'm in power enrichment mode. I should see a rich value here. Now, the voltage at stoic is 3.3 volts. Anything higher than that is lean. Anything lower than that is rich. So my upstream sensor is saying, hey, you're rich. And my downstream sensor is agreeing. It's at about 900 millivolts. So both my sensors are telling me, yes, you're rich. The calculated load tells me that most likely my mass airflow sensor is okay, but I have this really high fuel trim correction. Total fuel trim, 1.26. That's going to be, since we're in power enrichment mode, that's going to be long-term stuff. So we have a massive correction here. So it looks like our mass airflow input is okay, but we're running lean for some reason. We have this big correction. So that's what I got from this. Now, I'm not trying to come up with, oh, this part's bad, that part's bad. Right now, all I'm doing is doing a quick assessment of the data. That's all I'm doing. I may change my mind later, but that's what I'm doing. So let's zoom out and look at another part of the data that stood out for me. This section right here, where my downstream sensor is flat at 700 millivolts. But let's change our PIDs up here, and we're going to get rid of calculated load. Let's not do that. All right. So in this section, vehicle speed. All right, we need that. All right, so we are in this whole section here. We are sitting at a stop sign or sitting somewhere in park. And so I like that because that gives me an idea what fuel trim looks like at idle. And so we're at 745 RPM, sitting in a stop sign. Total fuel trim correction is 35% positive. That's a bunch of correction. So I don't like that. Looking at our upstream sensor, it's toggling right around 3.3-ish area. So that's in the ballpark. I kind of think it's jumping around a little bit more than I'd want it to, but it's in the general area. Now, what I think is really weird is in this section here, notice how that downstream sensor is fixed at 0.7. Now, I don't know why, but I don't like it. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that's weird. I don't like it. So there's something going on there, or not. But I don't like that. And I can't be familiar with every car and every configuration in the world, but I can use general ideas to troubleshoot stuff. So massive correction at idle, pretty serious correction at wide open throttle. That would not be a typical mass airflow sensor fault. It's kind of reverse or inverted from that. But I got something going on. I don't think it's the mass airflow sensor. So I need to dig some more. And but before I do, I want to point out something else. So in this area here, and right there, notice we have these, so this is just standing out to me. That's why I'm looking at it. It stands out to me. And at that point here, the air fuel sensor is reading 5 volts, which means it's leaner than snot. So we got 3 areas where it's leaner than snot. And so if I look at what my downstream sensor says at the time, it's agreeing. Dude, you're leaner than snot. So the next question is it supposed to be leaner than snot at that point? And you can kind of see that it's following a throttle cut. So I'm not worried about it at this point. But I'm just looking over the data quickly, trying to get a kind of a direction. That's all I've done here. I'm not ready to throw a mass airflow sensor on it. I'm not worried about a VE test, which we'll do later, but I'm not worried about that stuff. So at this point, I'm thinking, okay, guy or dude, whatever I call him, I kind of have a little bit of an idea of what's going on, but I need more data. And before I asked him that, I should have checked my email, because he followed up this email with a couple others, and we have more data. So I've put a link, in the down below. I'm pointing down below. It's not in my pocket. It's in the place where you type stuff. I got another link with more data, and so take a look at that, and I'll let it ride for a day or so.